Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining in. The first thing I would like to understand is whether I am audible. If you can just let me know if I am audible, if you can hear me. Great, thank you. So this is a quick introduction. I thought that we should have a discussion on the Sahai Commission. The report is out. There is a lot of discussion and debate and confusion around the report. So there needs to be some clarity, and just here to share what we have been able to figure out, what we have found out, and also to tell you about the conclusions of the commission and the background of it, how the government has reacted to the report, the state government. So if you have any question, feel free to type in your question. I have my laptop in front of me. I can see your comments. So while the questions come in, let me start with a brief background. I will be switching from English to Bengali and vice versa, depending on the questions and the audience. So largely it should be intelligible to everyone. So on 19th of December, the UP state government tabled the report of the Sahai Commission, which was set up in 2016, 28 June to be precise, and which had completed its work on in September 2017. So it functioned for 1 year, 3 months roughly, and then submitted its report. Now, although a state government or a central government, whichever government appoints a commission of inquiry, is required to submit or table the report along with an action taken report of the government within 6 months of the completion or receipt of the report. The government took more than 2 years, so September to November, so roughly 2 years, 3 months it took to table the report. We don't know what took the government so long. The government has its own administrative explanations like printing and translating and everything, but we have seen earlier also that whenever it comes to any commission or any report related to Netaji, the government always takes excessive time. So compare 6 months to more than 2 years. Now the commission, as we have seen, has reached 3 main conclusions. Conclusion number 1 is that Gumnami Baba was not Netaji. The second conclusion is that the commission could not ascertain his identity. And the third conclusion, which is in the form of an inference or guesswork, is that he could have been a follower of Netaji. Now, the brief of the commission, the terms of reference of the commission, it was a single point term of reference to ascertain the identity of the person who came to be known in the local media and later in the national media as Gumnami Baba. So the question put to the commission was, find out who was Gumnami Baba. Now when we had met Justice Sahai, who presided over the commission, and tried to understand his approach, he told us very clearly that I am not going to look solely at the connection between Gumnami Baba and Netaji. My job is to find out who Gumnami Baba is. So we had a little bit of problem with that approach, because the commission was set up and the whole controversy surrounding Gumnami Baba is solely because there has been substantial evidence that Gumnami Baba could have been Netaji. Now, whatever it was, the commission's work started, and we cooperated at the beginning. Now, as witnesses, we are not eyewitnesses to what happened in Uttar Pradesh between 1960s till 1985, as long as Bhagwanji was alive. But what we shared with the commission was our findings, our research, all that we had been able to gather. The bulk of it we presented to him. We gave him the leads. We told him the kind of evidence that exists. We told him the names of the people who were involved, who should be summoned, and their evidence should be taken. So all this, we presented a proper plan of action. Now, going back a few years, a decade ago, there was another commission, the Justice Mukherjee Commission of Inquiry, which was set up by the central government under the orders of the Kolkata High Court in 1998 to find out what happened to Netaji. As part of its work, when it came across the evidences related to Gumnami Baba, the commission investigated in detail, took evidence, conducted forensic tests, and reached a conclusion. Now, the conclusion of the Mukherjee Commission was that given the association of former revolutionaries, people who were intimately connected with Subhash Bose as long as he was in India, and their unwavering loyalty to the person who came to be known as Gumnami Baba and who was addressed as Bhagwanji by his followers, and their undoubted, unquestionable recognition of the man as Netaji meant something. Justice Mukherjee found a particular category of such witnesses who had known and seen Subhash Bose and had seen the face of Gumnami Baba quite seriously. He said that there is no need, there is no question of disbelieving them. Their evidence cannot be taken lightly, it's pretty serious. But even then, he had to overrule whatever he found from their evidence, from these witnesses and the other circumstantial evidence that they provided. That was primarily because of the forensic test results. Now, the forensic test results, what were they? There was a handwriting test done, and there was DNA testing done of a few teeth which were found from the belongings of Gumnami Baba of Bhagwanji from Ram Bhavan. So, while a top independent handwriting expert of international fame, B. Lal Kapoor, opined with all evidence, with hundreds of pages of photographs, detailed analysis, that Netaji's handwriting and Gumnami Baba's handwriting were the same. The Sarkari officers, the Sarkari labs, said that they don't match. Of the two Sarkari labs, one Sarkari lab from Kolkata gave just the opinion without any reasoning, without any explanation why it had reached that conclusion. So, on the other side, regarding the DNA, it was sent to two Sarkari labs. The CDFD in Hyderabad said that it could not draw any conclusion, while the CFSL based in Kolkata said that the DNA samples don't match. Now, the Sahai Commission was set up under the direction of the Allahabad High Court. The Allahabad High Court directed the state government to set up a commission of inquiry in its order of 2013. This order came in response to a writ petition filed by a niece of Netaji Subhas Bose. That niece, Lalita Bose, had gone to Faizabad, met with a number of people, gone through the belongings found at Ram Bhavan, approached the district administration for an inquiry for preserving the articles, went and met the chief minister of the state, the then chief minister, but all of them refused to help. So without any other option, she went straight to the Lucknow bench of the Allahabad High Court and filed a writ petition. The very next day, the Allahabad High Court ordered that a detailed inventory, a list, a descriptive list of all the items found in Ram Bhavan should be prepared and all items should be preserved. That case moved on. It took another 12 to 13 years for the state government to even respond in the court. That shows how serious our political parties and state governments are when it comes to anything related to Netaji. I can challenge that this would never have been the case had it been anything related either Gandhiji or later the Nehru Gandhi family. It's unimaginable that a state government takes 12 to 13 years to even respond. So, whatever, the Allahabad High Court finally passed its judgment. It directed the state government to set up a commission of inquiry to ascertain the identity of Gumnami Baba. Although it asked the state government to set up the commission of inquiry, throughout its order, the whole order of the court passed in 2013 is about Netaji. So it's not difficult to see what kind of linkage the court could see. It was visible to the court, it was apparent to the court. Since the petitioners did not ask the court to give a ruling on the identity of Gumnami Baba, the court did not, but asked the state government to set up a commission of inquiry. But as a validation of its thinking, the Allahabad High Court asked the state government to set up a museum comprising all the important elements, the items, the articles that were found with Bhagwanji at Ram Bhavan and later transferred to the district treasury for preservation. Now, it's common sense. Why would a High Court do that? There are thousands of Babas who remain anonymous, who live somewhere, die somewhere. Nobody gives a damn about them. Now, what is so special about this person that the High Court would ask the state government to set up a museum at public cost? That raises a serious question. Secondly, the Allahabad High Court critically analyzed the working of the Mukherjee Commission and raised serious doubts about the DNA tests done by the Commission. Its main objection was that when there is so overwhelming circumstantial evidence, documentary evidence, witness account, eyewitness accounts, there is no reason to place such high importance on the DNA test results, especially when nobody has been able to verify, to corroborate, to provide any witness that those teeth belonged to Bhagwanji. It was an inference. If people thought that because there was only, just as Mukherjee thought, that there was only one aged person who lived in that house, the teeth must belong to him. So that was the basis, and the Allahabad High Court questioned that basis. That was the starting point with questioning the Mukherjee Commission's operations, workings. The Allahabad High Court also criticized the Mukherjee Commission for not taking into account the content of the documents. The documents were not read properly. What they said was not a part of the Commission's working. That was another point of criticism from the Allahabad High Court. Now, after the 2013 order, nothing moved. The state government didn't respond. We wrote to the then Chief Minister Mayawati, no response. Then the next government was formed and the SP government, Samajwadi Party, came to power. We went and met Akhilesh Yadav, the then Chief Minister. Our friend Adhir Som in Lucknow helped a lot in organizing the meeting, and along with us some members of Netaji's family also went. We are extremely grateful to Jayantidi for going with us, meeting with Akhilesh Yadav and demanding an inquiry. So as a result, the commission was announced within a few weeks. What we realized when I was referring to our first meeting with Justice Sahai, what we realized is that Justice Sahai was not too keen to link Netaji with Gumnami Baba issue. And secondly, what he said, what he told us, and what he later put down in his rules, the commission's rules for functioning, also struck us as pretty odd. He said, I will not summon somebody, not summon anybody. I am not going to call people. I am not going to call for records. I will take into evidence whatever people come and tell me voluntarily on their own. So that was a bit odd to us, because the basic principle of investigation or inquiry, or a lot of people are interested in the semantics of inquiry and investigation, Sarkari people particularly, essentially they are the same. When is the audio consistently clear? I think Anuj is facing some problem with that. He says there is a little bit of interruption. So coming back to this point, the basic idea of investigation, that it has to be an active process. When you want to find the truth about anything, be it scientific knowledge, be it any criminal act, be it any other kind of investigation, it's the basic premise. If the basic premise is that the evidence will walk up to you without you trying to find out clearly, making the effort, then you are never going to reach the right conclusion. I mean, at that time, so we saw that a little later. I had made a cartoon which I have shared on Facebook, that basically his approach was, he was addressing evidence, saying that evidence, please walk up to me. If you don't walk up to me, I am going to investigate, I am going to inquire without your help. So I am not going to take you into account. So that's exactly what happened. So a long list of people which we had shared with the commission were ignored. They were never called. Now, the Gumnami Baba issue is not new. Even the assistant or the deputy secretary who has signed the Sahai Commission's report has said that when he was posted in Faizabad, he got to know a lot of things, he heard a lot of things, and he was curious to find out what the truth behind, what is the truth behind the identity of Gumnami Baba. There were inquiries done earlier in the 1980s. Even before that, there were IB investigations. So a lot of people were involved in the whole. Even Gumnami Baba, when he moved from one city to another, there were incidents relating to local administration, the civil administration, the police administration. There were talks of the military sometimes getting involved. So it's not something that needs to be learned afresh. There were a lot of existing evidence in the government files, which should have been the starting point of the commission. He should have summoned records. There were a lot of people who were occupying official positions during those days. They are still alive. We had given the commission their names, not addresses necessarily. We didn't know the address of everybody, but it's not difficult for a commission to find out. There were private individuals whose names we had suggested who needed to be summoned, and documents in their custody needed to be looked into. Nothing of this sort was done. Instead, what the commission did is that it took its starting point as its starting point the forensic test results of the Mukherjee Commission. Now this is unthinkable, this is unheard of. এরকম কোথাও হয় না। একটা কমিশন যখন তৈরি হয়েছে তখন আগের একটা ডিসকার্ডেড কমিশন যা রেজাল্ট ছিল সেটা দিয়ে শুরু করা যায় না। If an earlier commission is done and over with and its findings are rejected, some examinations done by that commission cannot be the starting point of an entirely new investigative process. But this commission, the Sahai Commission, did exactly that. It took as an infallible truth that the DNA test results which were found by the Mukherjee Commission, which were found under the Mukherjee Commission, that DNA doesn't match, which was a finding of the CFSL, is the truth. It took the opinions of two Sarkari handwriting experts that the handwritings of Gumnami Baba and Netaji do not match as the truth. So the moment the commission did that, it showed that it had already made up its mind. It was a preconceived conclusion, preconceived notion. So then the question arises as to what's the purpose of an inquiry then? If the purpose of setting up a new commission was not to authenticate what another commission had found, Justice Sahai's commission was not sitting on judgment of Justice Mukherjee Commission. But that is what exactly has happened. And despite the direction, the order of the Allahabad High Court mentioning clearly raising questions about the veracity of the DNA tests, Justice Sahai Commission said that, I'm sorry, I can't agree with the Allahabad High Court. Now this is funny because Allahabad High Court, a High Court, is a superior court than a commission of inquiry. So it's like a district court saying that I will not accept High Court order and I will overrule the High Court order. So that's pretty strange. Even otherwise, we had raised serious questions. We had given proof. There are two main objections to the DNA analysis done by CFSL. We gave proof regarding one of those objections. Justice Sahai has, in his report, taken into account some of the points we raised, but conveniently ignored this part. Because if this part was taken into account, the findings of the DNA test by CFSL would have to be discarded. And this commission clearly was in no mood for new and fresh investigation. So that is the mode of the inquiry done. So once the commission had made up its mind at the very beginning of the process, whoever approached the commission claiming that Gumnami Baba was Netaji, even if these guys had seen Gumnami Baba with their own eyes, the commission always found some way, some excuse to discard their evidence. If nothing else, I mean, they tried to say that when, for example, Rita auntie told the commission about her experience, how she saw him and everything, the commission said that since Rita auntie has not spoken out in public and claimed in public for so many years, her witness account cannot be accepted. And even if it can be accepted, there is the DNA test and the handwriting test, so nothing can be accepted. So basically, what could have been avoided was that the commission should have declared at the very beginning that this man was not Netaji, because the commission has accepted the DNA test results undertaken under the Mukherjee Commission. So we will find out what the real identity of the person is. But he is not Netaji. But when we look into the report, it shows that it is all about Netaji. There is no other character that even is remotely referred to. So it's as if the commission was set up to prove that Gumnami Baba was not Netaji. It doesn't matter who he was, you can make some wild guess, but he was not Netaji, as if that was the main objective. So the three conclusions: that he was not Netaji, that his actual identity could not be ascertained, and third, the guesswork, the guess. I am emphasizing on this word, that it's an inference, a guess, a conjecture, not based on any witness evidence or any kind of evidence, but it's a guesswork of the commission that he might have been a follower of Netaji. Now, this guesswork is based on one single letter written by a young girl to Bhagwanji. The letter read that Sri Chandrachur, apni kabe asben, when will you come to our house? If you come to our house on the birthday of Netaji, we will all be very happy. This letter was written by one Bulbul. Now, Justice Sahai discovered this letter during the single visit that he made to look into the material recovered from Ram Bhavan and which were under the custody of the district treasury. He spent one day to examine more than 7,000 items, which took more than 365 days to even list. It took more than 365 days to list down those belongings by a team of people appointed by the High Court. All that was examined by this commission on one day. And out of that one day, one examination, he discovered this one single letter of Bulbul. Now, we might see it as a coincidence, or maybe a design, or whatever it is, we don't know. But when the commission picked up the letter of Bulbul, he never made the effort to find out who Bulbul is. So, an official commission of inquiry is taking one piece of letter, one single page of letter, as a determining evidence without knowing who wrote that letter, what was the nature of the relationship between the writer and the addressee, what was the level of knowledge of the writer. All this could have been done. He did not do that. There are nearly 700 letters written by former revolutionaries, from Leela Roy, Pavitra Mohan Roy, Sunil Das, Anil Das, Kamalakanta Bhattacharya, Santosh Kumar Bhattacharya, many others. Those were not taken into account. And those letters clearly indicate Gumnami Baba as Netaji. But whose letter was taken? A person whose identity was not known, a young girl. Fortunately enough, that the young teenage girl of 1980 turned out to be the daughter of a very close associate of Leela Roy and Anil Roy, Santosh Kumar Bhattacharya. So Santosh Kumar Bhattacharya had joined Sri Sangho, of which Leela Roy and Anil Roy were leaders. And fortunately for us, the girl named Bulbul, who was a teenager at that time, she decided to speak up. So now that conjecture, that guesswork is also gone, is blown to pieces. So what is the sanctity of this inquiry? It did not take into account any of the former revolutionaries' views, their writings, notes, letters, telegrams, everything of which are available at the treasury which could have been consulted, and through this farcical exercise a conclusion was reached that Gumnami Baba was not Netaji. So, laughable as it might be, again luckily when the state government responded through its action taken report, that's also a bit confusing. The government has accepted the report but not accepted the main conclusion number 1, that he was not Netaji. So what has the government accepted? The government has accepted what it has listed in the action taken report, that the identity of this person could not be ascertained, and the conjecture that he might have been a follower of Netaji. So conjecture is now gone, demolished. What remains is the official view that the person's identity is unknown. Now, is it really unknown? Was it that difficult to find out? We don't think so. Because when we worked for Conundrum, if people like us with barely any resources, if we could have a handwriting test done by a top expert in the US, followed by a top expert within India, if we could collect previously unseen letters, if we could find out that there is a problem with the DNA test done, it's unbelievable that an official commission with the full backing of a state government with all its resources could not do so. So that looks deliberate, that looks willful, that the inquiry was not done. And as usual, as can be expected by any rational person, any thinking person, the conclusions of such a farcical inquiry has to be erroneous. It has to be wrong. It can't be any other way. So that's where we stand today in terms of Sahai Commission. Now, I've got a lot of questions. I have not been able to follow up on all the questions. Let me have a quick look and see if I can answer some of them. Okay. So Pradipta Maiti says, please create pressure group to get all electropherogram reports of the genuine teeth. That is the only clinching evidence. Yes, we have tried to get the electropherogram, but there is no response. So it will have to be the government which demands the electropherogram from the CFSL. Rita Auntie says that he did nothing. Well, I think he did quite a bit, but entirely in the wrong direction. He didn't do what was required. Nandini Mukhopadhyay says, no, I don't think Sahai Commission was to prove that he was not Netaji because he mentioned many similarities. When mentioning similarities is one thing, that is the last resort, that is the last straw for him. Mentioning similarities can mean anything. There can be similarities. There are many similarities between two unrelated persons, but that does not mean that it's a genuine effort. A genuine effort should have started with fresh investigation, with an inquisitive mind, and with specific questions. Those were never done. Somdev Chatterjee says they have fear of ghost of the dead man. Well, I would tend to agree with that, and what that fear is, we still don't understand. Avi Chatterjee says, so who is Gumnami Baba? Please read Conundrum. You will get a very, very specific answer to that, along with the evidence. The evidence which a commission of inquiry should have taken into account and produced itself, but failed to. Somali Banerjee says it's a joint conspiracy. Yes, looks like. It sounds very conspiracy theorist to say that and to support that, but yes, I would agree with that. Bholanath Bhattacharya asks, did the teeth belong to Bose? Who has confirmed that the teeth belong to Bose? Well, nobody has confirmed. As a matter of fact, that's what we are saying, that there is no evidence that the teeth belonged to Bhagwanji, and that is the point on which the Allahabad High Court criticized the assumptions of the Mukherjee Commission. Somali Banerjee asks, how can we protest? We cannot protest, and protesting doesn't work in our country. Not until you have a sizable support behind you. So the only option left to us is probably approach the judiciary, and that's what we are considering actively right now. That we might have to go to the High Court and get the matter reopened, because even the state government, neither the state government nor the central government seems to have any interest in this matter, and we are not even depending on them. We are not depending on their positive support or any positive attitude towards it. We can see that there is none. So whatever has to be done by the people. So this is really now a people's movement. If the interested people can rally around getting a final closure on this, then it will be possible. Otherwise, the matter will be dead forever. So we as long as it is possible, we will try to take it forward and get something done. And the next step we are considering is approaching the High Court. Shivaji Sarkar asks, is there hope? Would we ever be able to join the dots of unanswered questions of Netaji? Well, as far as answering the question regarding Gumnami Baba and Netaji joining the dots is concerned, we have joined the dots regarding his identity, and there is absolutely no doubt about his identity. The only remaining gaps, which are still substantial, are about his activities, what he was doing, and what the government knows. Because as we have seen from the inquiry report of the UP police of 1985, even they noticed that the intelligence bureau people were following Bhagwanji for many decades. So if anybody claims that there are no files on Netaji which are still classified, they are telling an absolute lie. So that's a plain lie from the government. But yes, there is hope as long as we have the courage and the initiative to do something. Then till then there is hope. Rajarshi Sinha says it will take immense political courage to accept that Gumnami Baba was indeed Netaji. Probably Yogi government have the guts. Well, as far as this matter is concerned, we have not seen the guts in any government, be it the Yogi government or be it the Modi government. Why not a direct letter or argue about further investigation to the Prime Minister? We have written to the Prime Minister. We have written to him a number of times. We have asked of very specific steps, measures to be taken to bring a closure to the mystery, and forget any response. We have not even received an acknowledgement from the Prime Minister's office, which is a pretty standard practice. So you can write to the Prime Minister telling him how big a fan you are of the Prime Minister. He will probably follow you back on Twitter or will send a letter of appreciation to you. But when it comes to Netaji, there is absolute and total silence. So, I would like to clarify that we have never said that the Yogi government has rejected Sahai Commission's report. All we have said is the state government has not accepted or rejected the main conclusion of the report. So anybody putting words in our mouth is making a mistake. Ritu Kapani asks, how is General Bakshi so precise about the Russian angle, cell number 45 theory, etc.? Well, can't answer that question. It will have to be General Bakshi who can answer that question. But we have not seen even a scrap of evidence about Netaji's presence in Russia from official sources. Russia itself has time and again refused any information, or not refused but denied the existence of Netaji on Russian soil after 1945. So we don't know what either General Bakshi or Subramaniam Swamy are talking about. Particularly in terms of Subramaniam Swamy, we can say that he is with the party that is in power. So if they have any evidence, rather than just making tall claims, they should come out with all the evidence, whatever they have, and declassify all the secret files now. Okay, so I guess that's all for tonight, unless you have any other question. So I will just hang on for a few more minutes to see if there is any other question. If you have, do shoot it. I will try to answer that. Amlan Bishwas asks, what is the next plan of action? As I said, that the next plan of action is yet to be formulated. We don't know the details of it, but largely it is approaching the judiciary. The judiciary is the only hope now, and I think we have done enough political lobbying and talking to different governments, state and central, and trying to get things done and moving. But political parties don't respond unless there is an electoral angle to it, unless they see the electoral benefits. So many people are saying that probably the central government will start working on it, moving on it, as the 2021 elections in West Bengal are approaching. Well, that's again just nothing more than a conjecture, that nothing more than a guess. We have no idea, no information, no indication from the central government or the state government that they are even willing to take this matter seriously. So we have to be prepared well for approaching the judiciary. It can't be done in a half-hearted manner. So preparations are on. We are weighing options, but that probably is the only way forward. Well, sir, Sarvajit Datta asks if the files are not declassified, would approaching the judiciary help? Well, the judiciary, we will approach the judiciary with the information that files have not been declassified and they should be. So we will specifically ask for directions. We'll ask for exemptions from serving and previous government officers regarding their oath of secrecy, because we have asked specifically from the government, and probably we'll ask the court also for a interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary commission which will directly report to the court, and anybody deposing in front of that commission should be exempted from their oath of secrecy. So as I said again, there are precedences and there are ways and means for things to be done, but it needs to be planned well, and that is exactly what is going on right at this moment. So it might be a couple of months or a few weeks before we take any concrete action, but we will. This is we cannot accept a farcical report just like that. We have to get it undone, and we will make the best effort to do that. Tanay Bhattacharya asks if there is any possibility for another commission from the UP government. We don't know. We will write to the government for the sake of formality, but clearly we are not hopeful. Mayuri Banerjee asks if it is possible to do DNA test, second set of DNA tests from US. We can't do that because it is under the custody of the government. So any tests have to be done by the government agencies, but we can pressurize, we can insist that they have to be done in front of through independent labs and with enough safeguards and completely transparently. So that's the only way to do it. Prashant Singhania asks if there is any possibility of some international force before which the PM is helpless, and does it have anything to do with INA's stolen treasure? Well, it sounds very Ludlam-like, Robert Ludlam-like, to think of the Prime Minister being helpless in front of international pressure. We don't know, and it's unlikely because many years have passed, and even the most sensitive of records have been declassified by foreign governments. There is no reason why they would hold back anything. Our government is in the habit of sitting on reports and asking others to do the dirty work. So we are very happy when our ministers say that we will not divulge the information with us, but they will go to Russia or to UK or to US and say, please declassify your reports. So even a child will be able to see through their game. I mean, if we don't clean up our own house, we have no right to go and ask others to do theirs. Jayanturai, why isn't RTI applicable of Netaji files? Well, that is another masterstroke of the current government, because they claim falsely that all files have been declassified and anything that you want to know about Netaji are in those files, and if they are not there, then it is not there. So, ja ache Mahabharata jodi na thake tale seta nei. This has to change. We will change that, but that's why it is. Shaureen Basu says, I have a different question about Gumnami Baba. Can I ask in this group chat, or I will ask you separately? If it is only about Gumnami Baba, then better you ask me separately, because this is more about the Commission of Inquiry, its work and the next steps. Ritu Kapani says, how did you get the list of files used as exhibit in Khosla Commission to prove Netaji died in the plane crash, which you presented to the Central Information Commission? Well, there is something called investigation, private investigation, and it's not always helpful to give out the modus operandi. I mean, the results are there for people to see, but there are many people involved, sources involved, and how undercover acts are done are never divulged, and that's the basic philosophy of investigation. It's private investigation. We cannot really divulge everything on that. But yes, we got access to that list, and even the Minister of Home Affairs did not think, they could never imagine that we could get hold of the list, which itself was classified. অনন্য দত্ত says, আমার মনে হয় এর পেছনে ওনার বাড়ির লোকজন জড়িত. She doubts that it has something to do with the family. Well, I am not going into the issue of the family tonight. That's another issue which needs to be dealt with in depth and seriously, and we have to do that. That's one issue that cannot be avoided, and it will come to the fore sometime or the other, and we will discuss it then, not tonight. Zagnik Dam says that some Mahakal followers maintain suspicious silence on this matter. Well, we have said that, we have written that clearly in Conundrum. There are a lot of people, a lot of his followers, second or third generation followers, they maintain complete silence because it is their belief that Netaji will come back and rescue the country and change the world order and whatever their thought is. So their belief is that if they divulge information, his plans will be impacted and enemies will get to know about his plans. So what a few people in Kolkata know, they would like to believe that nobody else in the world knows. So particularly the spy agencies and the geopolitical agencies, whatever they are. I don't want to get into the merit of such belief. All I can say is that this attitude has done enormous harm to the entire movement, entire initiative, because we have been deprived of information not only by the government but also by the many of these followers who hold a lot of information in their custody, which they have not shared with us. Had they done so, it would have added force to the body of knowledge that we have built up, and it would have been easier for us to confront the organizations, the agencies, the official bodies and go to the court. But they haven't done so for whatever reason. That's another tricky topic. শাশ্বতী বোস says, একটা ট্রুথ সামনে আসলে কার এত প্রবলেম হতে পারে? প্রবলেম যা আমাদের এটা ধারণার বাইরে ছিল, কিন্তু যা দেখছি প্রবলেম এত লোকের হতে পারে যে অনেক মিলেই এটাকে চেপে দেওয়ার চেষ্টা করছে। সো শুধু একজন দুজনের ব্যাপার নয়, নানা অর্গানাইজেশন এখানে, পলিটিক্যাল পার্টি, লিডার, ব্যুরোক্র্যাট, নানা লেভেলেই এটাকে চেপে রাখার একটা প্রচেষ্টা দেখা যাচ্ছে। Rajashri Chakraborty asks, can you clarify your position on Bhagwanji being alive after 1985? On the basis of what we have been able to gather, we believe that his body was cremated in 1985. If anybody has any proof otherwise that Bhagwanji was alive, Gumnami Baba was alive after 1985, all we would do is ask that person or persons to provide some evidence. But based on current evidence, we have no reason to doubt that Gumnami Baba or Bhagwanji died in 1985 and his body was cremated. People who claim to be champions of paranormal and spirituality and pretend to be some Mahatma who have done thousands of years of sadhana in Himalayas. I'm sure if they are claiming that Gumnami Baba or Bhagwanji is alive, they can help us get his email ID or telephone number. So please do that. Give us any evidence. On the basis of the evidence, if you can convince us, we are ready to believe that he was alive. But till then, no. Subhas Chandra asks, when is the report expected to be discussed in the UP Legislative Assembly? Given previous records, we don't think there will be. We are not very hopeful. We are not very hopeful that there will be any discussion, but we have to press for it. And well, let's hope for the best case that they do take it up in the next session, which will be in the next year, this year. Sorry. So maybe the budget session. I don't know, but looks difficult during the budget session. But if not in the budget session, then in the next session. So probably middle of this year. Don't know. Difficult to say. So I guess we call it a close. It has been nice, good questions. Thanks to all of you. Thanks for joining me. We should keep the conversation going. We'll come back with more issues, more topics, go deeper in each of the subtopics, and hopefully we'll be able to crack this together. And to those in Kolkata, we'll be there in January. We'll see you there with new information and some good meetings. Thank you again. Thank you very much for being here, for joining me. Good night. Jai Hind.